Good evening and welcome to Midnight Movie Club. This is going to be my Cloverfield Multiverse explanation video. So after watching the Cloverfield paradox for a second time, I thought I would draw up a diagram of a simplified version of the multiverse and how the events of paradox have affected its own world and other worlds within this multiverse. First off, a multiverse is a hypothetical set of various possible universes, including the universe which we live in. Together, these universes comprise of everything that exists, the entirety of space, time, matter, energy, and the physical laws and constants that describe them. Just for reference, when I talk about different Earths, I will call them by their movie that takes place on them. The Cloverfield Earth will be the 2008 film. The 10 Cloverfield Lane Earth will be the 2016 Earth that the alien invasion took place on, and the Paradox Earth will be the Earth we see Ava and Schmidt return to with the huge Cova monsters. Also note Mina's Earth, which is the second Earth we see in Paradox, the Earth where the Shepherd was sabotaged and is in all-out war with each other. So let's start with time, as it is constant throughout all of these Earths. We have the beginning of time, which happened approximately 15 billion years ago. Then we have the formation of Earth 4.5 billion years ago. In 2008, we have the Cloverfield Earth and the Cloverfield attack on New York. In 2016, we have the alien attack in 10 Cloverfield Lane's Earth. Finally, we have the Paradox Earth, where the paradox is created. A couple years after 2028, it's probably 2030, which causes the events throughout the multiverse and time. Now, moving down to our map of the multiverse, we have our first universe at the beginning of time. From this universe, we have these branches coming off it and forming more branches. At the end of each of these branches are new universes. The closer a universe is to another, the more similarities it will share. But as these branches get further and further away, these universes become vastly different. As of right now, these universes do not have an Earth in any of them until 4.5 billion years ago. Now the first Earth has been formed. This branching continues. The only difference is all these universes now have an Earth. And again, the further away the universe is, the less similarities it will have. So essentially now you have an infinite number of Earths, some similar and some unrecognisable, with different landscapes and species on them. Eventually we come to the Cloverfield Earth where the 2008 film takes place, then Cloverfield Lane Earth of the 2016 film, and the Paradox Earth the events of the third film take place on. And somewhere out there in the multiverse is the universe inhabited by the Cova monsters and the 10 Cloverfield Lane aliens. So if you're still with me and I haven't said universe enough for you, let's get into it. So in the Cloverfield Paradox Earth, Ava Hamilton and the team of the Cloverfield station tests the Shepherd particle accelerator, thus creating the Cloverfield paradox, creating rips in space-time, opening portals to other dimensions, and generally putting things where they aren't meant to be. These are shown as the wavy lines in the diagram. When I talk about a rip in space-time, I'm talking about the space-time continuum, also known as space-time fabric, and with it being ripped, it creates a hole between each point in space, allowing anything to pass through. So now that this paradox has been created, monsters, aliens, and possibly other beings from other dimensions pour into multiple other Earths. So this is how we get the events of the previous two Cloverfield films, with everything being mishmashed throughout the multiverse. Due to this, the Clover monster is sent from its dimension across to the Cloverfield Earth, but it's not sent to 2008, it is sent 2,000 years or so prior to the event of 2008. As we know from the viral marketing campaign, the Clover monster in the 2008 film is woken up from its slumber by Tagarato and Taido. Tagarato used the Chuai Station oil rig as a front for studying the monster. Taido, the eco-terrorism group, sent spies to the rig, causing something to happen that woke the creature up, sending it on its rampage of New York, giving us Cloverfield. Also worth a mention is the Kishin manga, a cross-media tie-in to the original Cloverfield, as in the end of the manga, dozens of Cloverfield eggs are found at the bottom of the sea. Though the manga has not been confirmed to be canon, it's still very cool to know many more baby Clovers could pop up in the Cloverfield Earth. Not so fun for the people of Cloverfield Earth though. While on the 10 Cloverfield Lane Earth in the multiverse, everything has been fine until 2016. Here there is a reference to power outages, so we do know that this world could have been heading the same way as Paradox's, but instead of being the adopted home of a Clover monster, this Earth is attacked by aliens. We also hear what we think is a throwaway line as Emmett says to Michelle, "Have you heard Howard's theory on giant alien space worms?" This could come into play with the worms from Paradox, or it could just be a little nod to them. Either way, that line means a lot more now. So the aliens in 10 Cloverfield Lane have either been taken away from their Earth and now want ours for doing so, or they are in fact mutated versions of the worms from Paradox. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they came from another Earth. To me, that just makes more sense. But it's Cloverfield, anything can happen pretty much. Either way, they do a number on 10 Cloverfield Lane's Earth. We also hear Emmett say, "It all started with a bright red light in the sky, which would have been the particle accelerator causing all of this." In the end, Michelle goes off to join the resistance and fight back, concluding 10 Cloverfield Lane. Also cool things to note, Howard worked for the Bold Futura subsidiary of Tagarato that makes satellites. And has anyone ever noticed all the Paris references and images? This would probably just be to poke fun at all of us that believed that fake Cloverfield 2 poster with the Eiffel Tower being destroyed. Okay, moving on to Paradox and Mina's Earths in 2028. After the Shepard accelerator sends the crew of the Cloverfield station into another dimension, where they find Mina, who is from yet another alternate Earth, they discover they are now in Mina's Earth's dimension and must get back to their own. Mina's Earth's Shepard was sabotaged by her world's version of Schmidt, causing it to crash into the Atlantic Ocean. Ava's children are also still alive on this Earth, so in the climax of Paradox, Mina is going to kill Schmidt and Ava so that she can use this Shepard to fix her Earth's energy crisis, even though it sounds a tad late, as her Earth has already been at war with each other for 14 months, but she believes she can fix it with this Shepard. Ava sends her into the vacuum of space, then patches Schmidt up, and together they use the Shepard one last time to leave Mina's Earth's dimension and return to theirs in Paradox. As they come down to the Paradox Earth, Michael, Ava's husband, is furious with them coming back as he tells Central Command not to let them down here with these monsters. And as they pass down through the clouds, a massive Cloverfield monster appears that has been pulled from its dimension into their Paradox Earth, was presumably more than just itself, leaving the Paradox world ravaged by these Clover monsters and possibly other creatures we have not seen yet. So now all these Earths have their creatures and their own timelines they will now follow and their own problems to face. Also worth to mention, the news presenter Mark Stambler was talking to in Paradox, telling her that this accelerator would cause monsters, demons and beasts from the sea to appear, is the same lady who tries to persuade Michelle to let her in the bunker in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Obviously this is her doppelganger from the Paradox dimension. The Paradox will be the cause for whatever weird and wonderful things happen in the next film, Overlord, that takes place on the eve of D-Day 1944. As we now know, these rips just don't send things to Earth's present, but also its past. So the simplified version of all I just said, multiple dimensions with different worlds. Cloverfield happened in its own dimension, 10 Cloverfield Lane happened in its own dimension, Cloverfield Paradox went between two dimensions and is the reason for Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane taking place. The ARG for the first and second movie remain perfectly intact. We just now know that these monsters and aliens are in those dimensions because of the Shepard and the Cloverfield Paradox. If Cloverfield Paradox never happened, then there would be no Clover for Tagarato to find on the Cloverfield Earth, and there would be no aliens invading Earth in 10 Cloverfield Lane. For the poor people of the Cloverfield Paradox Earth, there are multiple huge Clovers running around. Good for them. So the Cloverfield Multiverse is now open to infinite possibilities for its future films. A lot of people think this is just lazy writing on their part to make everything connect, but I really don't mind it at all, as we don't have to break any continuity. Nothing frustrates me more than breaking continuity. So let me know in the comments what type of Cloverfield films you would like to see in what settings. And with this multiverse, is there any characters you would like to see reappear? Maybe not original versions but doppelgangers? And also let me know what you thought of this theory explanation. Always open to feedback and suggestions. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to join the club. Thank you and good night.